Oh, this is a game philosopher. Today we're going to be talking about theurgy. But at the same time, what is theurgy? I'll address that in a second. But at the same time, I want to talk about really the reason why that a lot of people seem, again, like I've been saying in previous videos, to get too much into this stuff, and I think that people are missing the greater and more broad spectrum of Platonism. And I find this very problematic. In fact, a lot of Neoplatonists today seem to be more Hermetic instead of Platonist, and I find that actually a problem in the long run if you want to have a solid Platonic movement in the contemporary world. And Theurgy is pretty much the concept, to my understanding, it's pretty much divine magic, where they would do all these different rituals, or even play with numbers to try at divination. Now, I'm not going to address this from a perspective of theurgy is wrong, theurgy is right. I'm going to address this on whether or not it's still useful today. Now, if you practice it, that's fine. I don't care. You can do whatever you want with your beliefs. It's your religion. It's your spirituality. But for me, I'm really wanting to address other things, actually. And if you guys want, I could actually try to replicate some of the theurgy and put it on this channel, just for a little bit of fun. Although I typically, ever since I stopped being a Neoplatonist and started doing the more modern stuff, I've actually kind of found that it's not really relevant to me as a Platonist. And anyway, here's in particular why I don't think it's so relevant. And Apuleius, he wrote, of course, the Metamorphosis, or the Golden Ass. He wrote Psyche, Florida, and a few other really great works. But he also wrote one very significant work that's significant to this topic. And that topic and the book is The Defense of Magic. And he wrote it because apparently during that time, a lot of different forms of esoteric practices were illegal, and they were called magia, which, to simplify, and from what I understand from watching one of my favorite YouTube channels, Religion for Breakfast, magia is not mainstream practices that are not approved by the Roman states, and they're pretty much thought of like very evil, dark. Like, for example, people feared stuff like human sacrifice, so a lot of times you kind of had to be approved with these types of magic or practices within the Roman Empire for very practical reasons. And apparently Apuleius was accused of practicing magia instead of theurgy. Now, before I continue though, there's another definition of magia which is accepted today because people tend to call it goetia, which means pretty much demonic magic, which actually comes a little bit later, more in the medieval period, with the discovery of the Ars Goetia, or it's like, or that's the key of Solomon, or whatever it's called. But anyway, people, since they often today use it to describe demon magic, I'm just going to use the more historical term, which is to describe practices that are illegal by the Roman states. And Platonic theology and theurgy actually was, at this time, kind of iffy. Some people approve some practices, some people don't. And so Apuleius had to face a court trial on it. And inside this book, he wrote The Defense of Magic, which came out of this court trial. He actually defends his practice of theurgy by talking about how it's a scientific experiment, pretty much. Now, that's a very broad oversimplification book that you would want to read if you're interested in this topic. Whether or not you practice the theurgy or not, it provides a pretty good philosophical basis of it. And anyway, this idea that he used it to practice pretty much as a scientific experiment, I would like to focus on, because the question is whether or not theurgy is still applicable today and if it's useful. Now, it's useful from a spiritual perspective if you're trying to rebuild the ancient Roman um, spiritual practices or ancient Greek spiritual practices, but at the same time, or even if you're into some type of New Age thing, or if you want to practice that side of Neoplatonism, but at the same time, is it truly useful? Well, for one, with modern science, a lot of the older rituals and a lot of the older even medicines have actually been proven to be false. Now, that's not to say that they're useless. There's plenty of use to it, and even with the divination, that's pretty much, in my opinion, just prayer. So go ahead and do that if you want, unless you're of a different type of tradition. Now, I pretty much separate the Neoplatonism and, or not Neoplatonism, but late Platonism, which includes Neoplatonism, into three. You have the Jewish branch, which comes from thinkers who accept the tradition of Philo, which is, by the way, I've been reading his books, they're pretty great. You have the pagan tradition, which comes from not only traditional Platonism, but also the older writers like, or yeah, Neoplatonists like Proclus, Iamblichus, Apuleius, and you also have Plotinus, the biggest one of that tradition. In fact, he's somewhat one of the guys who, Plotinus is one of the guys who I talk about whenever I talk about things like defining self-racine or something else. Then you have what's called Christian Neoplatonism, which is more Augustine, it's Boetius, it just like the Jewish Platonism, it goes back to the Middle Platonics. So the Christians, they pretty much have a synthesis, just like the Middle Platonists, between Platonism and Stoicism. So they, for the most part, valued both Zeno and Plato and Socrates. Now, later traditions from the Renaissance and onward, and I count this as the basis of contemporary Neoplatonism, is the blending of the Hermetic school, or Neo-Hermetics, with Neoplatonism, which is what Ficino did a lot, and I really am not a big fan of that, but that's for another video. And anyway, Theurgy, looking at it from a natural perspective, since there's all this modern science, from a scientific perspective and natural perspective, I'd have to say that it's practically worthless for the physical side of things. Now, for the prayer side of things, depending on your tradition, but looking at the pagan tradition, it's actually useful for this. Of course, if you are not into that, it's not going to be useful for you. So if you're a Jewish Platonist, you will pray to Yahweh. If you're Christian, you'll pray to the same God, because pretty much the Jewish tradition is in Christianity and Judaism, and so you would not need this, so it's worthless. Now, one thing I would like to throw in is that Augustine, in his City of God, he actually refuted all these pagan Platonists and talked about how they were worshiping demons. But this was actually not really the case. They were worshiping. This is going to be a little bit hard to pronounce, but daemons, Daemons, which are pretty much like demons, but they're actually good demons. They're uh, pretty much like lesser gods. And St. Augustine knew this, so he pretty much went against this idea by saying that there is no such a thing as good demons. They're all bad, and as such, he rejected this whole entire thing and thought these guys should stop doing the demon worship. Now, this is somewhat problematic because later, they got it from a historical standpoint, a lot of Christians during the centuries afterwards would actually somewhat tighten the noose around the neck of Platonism, such as the abolishing of the academy by Justinian, the killing of many Platonist philosophers who were not of the Christian tradition, or even who are not of the Jewish tradition either. And so things became bad because they would associate Platonism with demon worship and, well, at least this one sect of Platonism. And so, really, we have to be aware of this when we're talking about theurgy, that theurgy is not demon worship. It's actually divination towards lesser good spirits, according to the tradition. Now, I can go into stuff like Henods, which are the parts of the One, the participants of the divine nature. But that's another video. And really, in my opinion, it's better to study the theology aspect. If you are a fan of it, you can read Plato's dialogues when he talks about God and the spirit, the soul, all that stuff. I'll cover those in future videos. You could read Augustine, you could read Philo when it comes to allegorical interpretations of the writings of Moses. You can read Boetius, he talks about the problem of evil, and you will find a lot of benefit. But in particular, to sum up, I really don't think of theurgy as necessarily the best thing for anyone to study unless they're interested in it and want to practice that particular spiritual tradition. Although, since there are many different traditions of Platonism that are actually multi-religious. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the Muslim version of Platonism. So I guess I'll just group the Jewish, the Christian, and the Muslim as the Abrahamic Platonist, because same God. And while there are differences, they would often debate and study the philosophy together, and it was somewhat a unity, even though there was a little bit of religious contention that would go on, especially in the time of the Crusades and the time of Islamic conquest westward. And so right there, that's a beautiful thing, that philosophy actually can unite people. But I do think that really, when it comes to a level, no matter if you're a pagan, atheist, Christian, Muslim, Jew, in my opinion, the theology element, if you're wanting to study the theology element of Platonism, should go up here. Theurgy should be down here. But at the same time, for the philosophical element, it should be kind of like the One. It has to be with all the parts connecting as participants of the whole of the One. So in a way, you would have a more Platonic, holistic philosophy that would actually work towards educating yourself to be a better person and to be able to analyze things, to get along with people better, to understand the nature of the soul better, and all this stuff. And this is the Game of Philosopher. Thank you for watching another episode of Modern Platonism. Now, for all those books back there, it's not really a mess. It's just I don't have any space because I have a crap ton of books. I don't really have a lot of space for them, because like I have a lot of bookshelves and they don't all fit, so some of them have to be up there. So excuse the mess. For my book recommendation, I'm just gonna go with this: the 6 books of Proclus, the Platonic successor, on the theology of Plato. This book actually is a pretty good book. This, along with the Elements of Theology, like it's been giving me a lot of aha moments to let me understand more about uh, spiritual practices in general, whether it's for Christianity, uh, paganism, Judaism. Although it's a pagan theology text, so that's pretty interesting. And I'll see you with the next video. This has been the Socratic uh, philosopher named the Game Philosopher. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this Theurgy. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Remember, I'm not trying to say that your practices are bad if you do practice this type of Theurgy. I'm just saying that it's important to expand outwards. See you later.